Okay, so hi.
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good, good. Happy almost New Year.
Happy almost New Year. Okay, so do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Sure. So my name is Margaret-Ann. I am a product manager, well, was a product manager until recently at Uber. And before Uber, I was at Facebook and Instagram. So I've been a
Yeah.
PM my whole career, although I did go to engineering school originally and thought I would be an engineer.
So how did you choose like tech as your career path?
Yeah, so it wasn't something I wanted to do originally.
Mhm.
I kind of went to university. It was an engineering school, so I knew I was going to do engineering. I love math, love science. Figured I would do something in that space. But tech wasn't really a thing, or it wasn't the thing that it is now today. Back in I guess 2009, and so it wasn't even on my radar. I figured go to engineering school, work in, some sort of capacity as an engineer, and then leave it up to chance. And while I was in school, one of my favorite professors actually was just starting to get into mobile development. He had gotten a Google developer kit for the Android phone from Google. And it was very early days Android. I think it was like 2010, 2011. Very rough around the edges. This was the first Android phone. I think it was like a G1 or something. Um, and he just gave it to the students to play with, and like we started developing mobile apps and super fun,
That's
and I
really
just kind of got
cool.
hooked from there.
Okay, so you worked at like lots of big companies during major growth phases. So, could you explain what that's like? Like you can talk about Uber.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so Uber, when I joined, I think it was about 1,000 people. I joined in
Whoa.
2015, and that sounds big, but
I
it
mean,
was all distributed all over the world, so HQ was actually quite small. um, and so it felt very like startup-y and fun, and by the time I left, I think we were, at some point we passed 30,000. And when I
oh
left, I think it was
wow.
like 25,000 people globally. So definitely hockey stick in terms of employee growth, and trips growth, of course, was really what drove that. So it was fun to be on that rocket ship. I'd say, in terms of how it impacted the day to day, in the beginning, it was very scrappy and kind of like small tiger teams of people. I joined, and the next week they were like, hey, we need you to work on growing our, business in India. Get on a plane to India. And so, three of us get on a plane to India. And, I've never been in my life. It's all new, but we're kind of figuring it out as we go. And that was really the MO at the time. I'd say there's a phrase like, I think it's two pizza teams or one pizza teams. And it was very much that mentality of like, 4 to 8 people really solving big, meaty areas. And then over time, I think that kind of, expanded. I grew into a manager. I actually built my own team, started managing people. And I think that's the trajectory that a lot of folks follow. Although it's become increasingly common to just kind of be, like this rock star IC. IC means individual contributor. You can just be really awesome at building things and doing things yourself and not necessarily go the management track.
Okay, so what did your team do exactly? You said you made a team yourself.
Yeah, so I worked on a number of things over the years. In the beginning, we were working on growing the business internationally. So we were the international growth team. And our main market focuses were India and China. That was pretty much it in the beginning. Over time, that expanded to Southeast Asia, Latin America, a broader international base. Um, did that for 3.5 years, and really that was just like whatever the markets needed to grow, we would we would build it. So we were in constant contact with the ops teams on the ground who were running the day-to-day business, and we were jamming with them on, hey, what are your product needs? What are the tech gaps? What's blocking your growth? How can we help unblock it? And that was kind of just how we ran it, very informally. In late 2017, they kind of moved to a more centralized model where there was one rider, one driver, one eats team for the whole globe. And they didn't really have a dedicated international team. And so that's when we started, having to do more of a traditional product prioritization process of, okay, of all our riders globally, what are their needs? How do we stack rank those? And certain themes started to arise. I think safety in Brazil and Latin America generally was a huge one. Payments has always been a huge pain point. A lot of work on payments over the years. Just general like usage of the rider app and accessibility. We started, we acquired a company called Jump, which do bikes, and we started integrating them into the app. And so how do you think about expanding the app from just being about cars and getting a car and going from A to B into like getting a scooter or a bike, or maybe stitching together a journey with a car and a scooter and a bike, and like, expanding that scope. And so those were the major themes, but it was hard because we actually had a pretty lean team working on all these, global markets and all their specific needs. And so, I think there's merits to both models, but it was interesting to see kind of both the pros and cons of each.
Okay. So could you tell us, could you tell me like what a typical day would have and what skills you use on a day-to-day basis as a product manager?
Yeah. So it depends. I think PMs, there's no typical day. But a lot of what I was doing was actually getting teams aligned and helping, connect the dots between engineering team, design team, different product stakeholders, management stakeholders, financial stakeholders, and just, basically craft the vision on day one for here's, the problem, the pain point, why we're working on this, and like what we're trying to solve. Help work with the team to generate the actual solution, and then from there get all the wheels in motion to actually build it. And so I might attend a couple design reviews. I love design reviews. Those are my favorite. So you have an hour or two where you're jamming through different design options for a different project, and then make a decision on that. Then you have to talk to the engineering team. You might be discussing deadlines or blockers or additional spec details they need, or just jamming on kind of different alternatives for implementation and the implications that those might have on future projects, and the scalability of the product. And then, there's presentations. There's a lot of presenting. You have to kind of be comfortable with public speaking. It depends who you're speaking to on any given day. It might be your team. It might be your boss. It might be the exec team. It could be CEO. But I think that's one thing that I've gotten much more comfortable with in this role, is just being able to go into a room and not necessarily have everything prepared, but be able to, think on your feet, clearly communicate, talk to people, walk them through what your vision is, and get everyone aligned.
That's cool. So how is product managing different from your like stereotypical software engineer job that most people think of?
Yeah, so I like to think of them as kind of breadth first versus depth first. And so engineers tend to go very deep. They'll, be working on a specific area for much longer. They'll have to, really think through the implementation details. They might become experts in a certain platform or a certain language or a certain code base. PMs have to really jump around and go very broad, and kind of what you end up doing is a lot of pattern matching, where you're like, oh, I've seen this problem in a different context. Let me see if a similar solution might work. And so you're talking to a broad base of stakeholders, a broad, subset of different problems day to day. And so it's a lot of context switching and going broad. And so I think it just depends what you like to do, right? Like if you really like to invest in something and go deep on it and own it, end to end, and kind of own that implementation long term, an engineering role is perfect for that, right? Like you get to do a lot of that. If you're a people person who wants to kind of have fingers in a lot of different pots and have a very dynamic day, then product is a really good option.
That's cool. Okay, so what is your favorite thing about working in tech or in like her?
Favorite thing? I mean, I do like how dynamic it is. I like that, no 2 days are the same, and there's always new problems to solve. There's so many problems. And I think for people that get excited by like fun, interesting problems and picking apart problems, it's really just a great environment for that. I think I also like tech's optimism. I think people maybe from the outside give tech a very cynical, like, oh, Facebook's, out to get you.
Yeah.
They're taking elections, they're listening to what you're saying. But when you're actually in it, like people are fundamentally builders. They're optimistic. They want to solve problems. They want to build, help people's lives day to day. And I think that energy and spirit is really infectious. And I went to a school that was very project-based and kind of focused on building. And I think this has been, a nice continuation of that, where I get to build. I get to be around people that, always are thinking, yes, that's possible. And here's how we're going to do it. Not, I don't know. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I have one last question for you, which is, there's lots of high school students like me who want to get a job in tech, but they have no clue where to start. So do you have any advice for them?
Yes. Well, so one thing that's just fun and very tactical but fun is I used to mentor a Girls Who Code club, and
Yeah.
I think they're everywhere. I don't know if they exist in the UK, but I think it's a global organization, and it's just like a great opportunity to get your feet wet and play a little bit with what ends up being the day to day. And I think Girls Who Code is framed as coding, but it also you end up doing a lot of the product manager skills because you're designing your solution, you're implementing your solution, you're discussing it with your different team members. Like a lot of those softer skills end up being kind of the core basis of product. So that's one recommendation. The other, this is really also specific, but in college, when I started learning that tech was a thing, I started reading TechCrunch and just blogs and tech kind of coverage a lot. And just got a feel for like, okay, here's what people are doing. Here's the spaces that are interesting. Here's like the solutions that, are coming up. Here's where investment money is going. And you just getting your feet wet with the space. So I definitely recommend reading, TechCrunch or any of these different publications. And then beyond that, like definitely the surefire way to get into tech is to do some sort of, an engineering or computer science college major. But that's not necessarily the only way. I know I work with a lot of people who, have transitioned into
Yeah.
product from different disciplines, whether it's they were formerly data analysts or they were in business development or they were in product operations. And they're just as great PMs. Like you do not need to have a computer science background to be a really good PM. There's some areas, that are very technical where you probably do, but it's not a given. And especially nowadays, it's not a given. And so I would say don't feel limited by that, but definitely, explore the more technical areas, get deeper, take advanced AP or IB, computer science or math, etc. So, and that's like the more traditional way.
Yeah. Okay. Any last words? I think that's it though.
No, I mean, I think tech's very dynamic. It's very exciting. The other thing I'd say is like, just build stuff, start projects.
Yeah.
Like I love this initiative. I think this initiative is great. At the end of the day, like everything is kind of tech and tech is everything these days, right? Like
Yeah.
every company is online, every small business is selling online. Everyone has some tech component nowadays. And so I don't think you need to be in tech or out of tech to participate in that. I think you can really just
It's a
build and
lot easier nowadays.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that's really awesome. I think tech has been democratized and your generation will like really see that come to fruition. And that's why I say you don't need a computer science degree. You don't need to go the traditional path. Like if you build things and you're working with people and you're communicating online and just like keeping up to date with what's happening, I think you're already like halfway there.
Okay, so thank you so much. It was really great talking to you.
Yeah. Thanks for chatting with me. This is great. Good
Yeah.
luck
Okay.
with this initiative. I love it.
Oh yeah,
Very
thank you. Okay, so I think we can say bye now and I'll end the recording. Okay, bye.